Well, it's April, and April is daffodil month, and but the truth is, it's late April, and the only daffodils that are still hanging out outside are these little teeny tiny ones right here, and I mean they are teeny tiny. I love them though. We've got a few daffodils inside, cut flowers, but. Everything else is pretty much done for out here in the daffodil department, and there's two reasons for that. One of which is it's very late April, like I said, and it's also been very warm. In fact, I can't remember when the last frost was. I think it was probably in March. I think once we turned the corner on winter, we've just been above freezing ever since, and pretty mild, some very nice 80-degree days. And I looked at the long-term forecast and didn't see any chance of frost right through May 15th. And May 15th is typically our last safe frost date around here. So we're a little ahead of schedule. But there's a lot going on. I mean, talk about what a difference a month makes. Boy, let me tell you. If you remember what March looked like, this is April. Now, first of all, these are seedlings, and those are leftover seedlings, just extra ones from the ones that I have planted. And there's 3 flats of volunteer marigolds that all came up in bed number 6 out there, and I just transplanted them here before I did some tilling out there. And then back there is some straggly looking sunflowers that are also going to end up in bed 6. But other than that, starting where we normally start, look at these chives. They are looking fine. And you can see, if you look closely, here, let me see if I don't know if I've got that little bulb there. Those are going to be blooming, as is typical for May. And so those guys are doing fine, and I even managed to weed and everything. This pet memorial area still needs a little cleanup work, but that'll come eventually. Vanina's been out here weeding like crazy, making the weeds, as usual, quake in their boots. But let's get on to what's planted here and growing. Number one, you got leeks here, a couple rows of them, and they're looking pretty good. Look at these eggplants. Look at how big they are already. And usually they're not even in the ground yet until it gets a little warmer. But like I say, it's been unusually warm, so. And these are all peppers, four varieties of peppers. This guy seems to be having a little trouble there. But that's why I have extras, so I can plant replacements. Then we got tomatoes. This is Juliet's. These are some kind of Roma tomato. I can't remember the name of them. These are Chef's Orange, which I did a couple years ago, and they went very well. And then these are Big Beef. I like to try a big variety of tomato every once in a while. Let's see. Well, there's Mr. Franklin. Oh, and the pups too, because it's April. They still have their excuse me. Sorry, boy. They still have their Easter egg scarfies on, even though Easter is long since done away with. And that's a nice glass of Merlot, which is something to enjoy in the garden, and very much a part of gardening, actually, is sitting in the garden and enjoying the growing. These are onions, 3 varieties of onions. We got Candy, Alyssa Craig, and Red Wing, I think, is the red variety. And if you look closely, you can see some sprouts coming up there. This is garlic, which typically I would plant in fall, but I didn't get around to that and decided at the last minute I wanted to do some, so I bought some at the grocery store and planted them just like that. Now these you might recognize as potato trenches, and the potatoes, some of them, in fact, are coming up. I don't know if you can see some of those low down leaves just starting to break through the soil. That's always a good sign and always exciting. But that's not all. We got artichokes. Now this year with the artichokes, I'm spacing them, giving them much more room than they had the first time around. So I'm hoping I'll actually get some artichokes out of them. And this is brand new for me. I'm doing celeriac and celery. And let me see if I believe the lighter color there is the celeriac, and the darker color ones are the celery. I've never tried them before. I'm kind of anxious about that in a good way. Oh, excuse me for the breaking continuity, but my battery ran out. Anyway, these trenches here are pea pods, a snow pea pod and snap peas. And the rest of this is reserved for, I think, pole beans and sweet potatoes. Not yet started. So let's swing around here to bed number 5. And this section is unoccupied yet. That's going to be, I think that's going to be ground cherries and okra, both of which, by the way, are inside under the lights. These 2 rows are spinach in varying degrees of size, and then these lovely rows are the lettuce that I started indoors. And then I've also, at the end of this row, I don't know if you can see, but there's some lettuce planted from seed that is in fact coming up. And we've got 2 rows of carrots here, and also a row of radishes, and it's pretty easy to see that the radishes are also up. Meanwhile, brassicas. Let's see, in order from your right to your left, we have Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, and kale, which I'm trying for, well, I don't know if I've ever tried it before, but so it's close to the first time, if not the first time. And this lovely tilled bed is for sunflowers, and I might throw some pumpkins in there. And you know, they talk about you want your soil to be kind of like chocolate cake that crumbles in your hand, and then you know it's good for planting. That is the definition right there. That's also partially due to the fact that it's been warm, but there hasn't been too much rain, so it's just nice out here no matter how you slice it. We are not going out to the far bed there. That's going to be melons, winter squash, and some pumpkin. It still needs to be de-weeded and tilled in a little bit. But other than that, that's what's happening here in April. And let's not forget these strawberries, which have just been kind of liking living in these big pots. In fact, I think they were pretty much just in this one pot here, and they just sent out runners, and if they end up on the ground, like that one down there, which I still need to move, I've been moving them up into these pots. We never really get a whole lot in the way of strawberries because we're in competition with the birds and apparently chipmunks and everything else. Everybody likes strawberries. This is actually a branch that was cut off during the pruning from either the little peach tree or the little nectarine tree. And surprisingly enough, both of those, even though the closer one doesn't have any leaves on it, they both rooted, which I've never seen before in a fruit tree cutting. So we decided to just go ahead and put them in a pot and see what happens. In the meantime, I had some extra leftover cloves of garlic, so I planted them in here, and you can see that some of them are coming up. So I guess that's kind of about it here. It's a lovely, warm evening. It felt like it got pretty darn close to 80 today. It is threatening, however. I don't hear any thunder. I don't think they're predicting thunderstorms, but I think they are predicting some rain, at least overnight. So it's a good thing that we're getting this in. And if I didn't show you already, I do still have some stuff growing under the lights. I think I mentioned the ground cherries and the okra, and also I've got a couple flats there of the melons and the winter squash and pumpkins, all of which will be coming out here fairly shortly. And all I have yet left to start indoors are the pole beans and corn. And that'll be the last of the stuff that needs to be started inside. And once those get in the ground, we're done planting, basically, at least the first round, until we do second plantings of things. Starting to clean up the pond a little bit, get the pond plants out of inside under the lights. Mowing already, like I said. I knew we were going to mow before the end of April. We certainly did. And that's about it. I mean, spring has definitely sprung. It's been really kind of a nice, unusually nice spring. And we're well on our way to having a real live garden here. And we're having a good time. So hope you're enjoying your spring, and we will see you next month in May, which, as you may recall, as I always say, it's the busiest outdoor month here at the Manor. So we'll see you then in May. This is Marvin Gardens, April 2017, and that's going to do it. Bye. Hi, Jesse. Oh, yes, Frankie. I would kind of prefer you not dig a big hole right there. But I suppose you gotta do what you gotta do, right, Frankie boy?